This is Caravan to Midnight, and man, lady, do we have a program for you. We're going to speak with a couple of very interesting people today. Liz Crokin is one of them. Because I said, and I meant it, we are not going to let the Seth Rich murder go. We are going to run down every mug that was involved in it, rat them out, strip them of whatever prestige they may imagine they have, and hopefully put them in prison. Is that too strong? Well, I certainly hope not, because what they have planned for you and me is a lot stronger. And then we're going to speak with Amil Imani. He's an Iranian American. He's going to tell you all about the religion of peace. But first, let's hit some just broad points. That disgusting thing, Kathy Griffin, unappealing on every level, a so-called comedian who's anything but funny, has now been cut by CNN. Even the immaculately groomed ex-CIA boy, Anderson Cooper, found her comments disgusting, along with the decapitated and simulated head of President Trump. So she's gone. In the meantime, even the Satan worshippers, that bunch of morons, has disavowed Kathy Griffin. Poor Kathy. Get off the stage, hide thy face, and do not return. Just go away. And see if you can take some of these other pukes with you, like Sarah Silverman, for example. She mocks Jesus and the GOP in her promo for her new Netflix program. Just run them into destitution, and you'll hear from them no more. Mr. Trump plans to pull out this Paris climate deal. That's under development right now. It's lit up in red on the Drudge Report. And isn't it funny? You know what finally made it to the Drudge Report? Caravan to Midnight, I told you about this, what, weeks ago? Month, maybe? Suicide rate among Chicago cops. Absolutely skyrocketing. Los Angeles law enforcement officers are on high alert after gangs have begun to threaten officers. You know how you deal with those guys? Go get yourself some Tommy guns. Did you ever see that movie Gangster Squad? That's how you deal with those mugs. Just annihilate them. Speaking of annihilation, that was a little bit disturbing to see the banner across the bottom of the screen as a Fox News presenter went on about these tactics. U.S. adopts annihilation tactics against ISIS. Wow, annihilation tactics. I got an idea. Quit talking about it and just bleep and do it. How about that? Will that work? Okay. We got some stuff coming up that we're going to use under the fair use doctrine. You know, in support of a documentary, in support of a news informational segment. We're going to show that to you in a minute. You're going to find this really disgusting. I'm not bleeping out any of the language, so if there are children you don't want to hear F-bombs being dropped, just, actually, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea. I don't think any children who witness the spectacle that you're about to be shown are going to adopt this language. If for no other reason, then they'll be seeing the disgusting individuals, a whole group of them, from which the F-bombs emanate. I don't think your children will be at risk of adopting their language. In fact, I think this is the surest way to keep them from ever using it. I even have gone to bleeping rather than what I'd be tempted to say in other days. But that was a long time ago. Let's see, what else do we have? Russia's got a deployable missile. They're going to start outfitting their cruisers with it next year. This thing runs speeds between 3,500 and 4,600 miles per hour, and it can defeat any extant anti-missile system that we have. I think it would be a very good idea. Wouldn't you feel better if we were all friends? We and the Russians, friends. We should be. I remind you, they supported us in our Revolutionary War. They supported us in World War I. They supported us in World War II, and the Russian Navy launched its own version of cruise missiles from a sub on Daesh targets near Palmyra. So they're in the game. The Russian Navy's Admiral Essen frigate and Krasnodar submarine performed a launch of 4 Caliber cruise missiles from the eastern Mediterranean against targets of the IS, otherwise known as the Daesh. These people are like a bunch of bad disc jockeys, you know. Bad book, change cities, change your name, you know. These terrorist groups are operating in the area of Palmyra. All targets have been struck. When the Russians strike something, don't you find the strike is really effective? Again, I say I'd like it better if we were all friends. And I also repeat, we should be. Joe Stalin and the Soviet Union are gone. They're gone. And while Russia becomes more like the United States of the halcyon years, we're turning more into Joseph Stalin's Soviet Union. Are you familiar with the term color revolution? More on that later. But I'll cut to the chase. President Putin has said we need to avoid these color revolutions because we see the tragedy that they lead to. And I think President Putin is correct. So let's get rolling here, shall we? Somebody whose work I think quite a lot of. Now, he drops quite a few of the aforementioned foxtrot bombs. That would be Paul Joseph Watson. Published this thing on the 30th. Anthropologist says white genocide is a good plan. Preventing right-wingers from having babies will entrench leftist power. According to anthropologist Michael P. Oman-Reagan, O-M-A-N, Oman-Reagan, R-E-A-G-A-N, white genocide is a good plan because it will entrench leftist power by preventing right-wingers from having babies. He's a Vanier scholar, or maybe a Vanier, V-A-N-I-E-R scholar, and Ph.D. candidate in the Department of Anthropology at Memorial University of Newfoundland. So he tweets out white genocide and why it's a good plan before going on to list a number of reasons why he thought the elimination of an entire race was progressive. Instead of politics, the liberal media elite should orchestrate deep social ad campaigns to convince people to never reproduce with, he added before, an emoticon of a frog to symbolize the alt-right. Oman-Reagan said preventing alt-right frog milk boys from reproducing was a good thing because they won't be able to teach any children to be full of hate or terrible attempts at owning people online. This is a piece of you-know-what in academia. This person is so insane, and you can tell by looking at his picture because one of his eyes is about, he's got one that's open. I got allergies. He has no excuse. He's in Newfoundland. And the other one's like this, the left one. The left eye is the eye that a horse looks at a threat with. A horse will always look with his left eye, always. And when you teach a horse something, he'll always blink 3 times, which is a signal that he's got it, or she. And it never fails. Anyway, here's another quote from this puke. They can leave the politics to the leftists, who will ensure everyone has health care, free education, right to food and housing, etc., remarked Oman-Reagan, before later tweeting that America was a racist nation with a constitution that primarily benefited white supremacists. He subsequently tweeted that the First Amendment and free speech were also enjoyed primarily only by male white supremacists. This thing is a lying Papa Oscar Sierra of the lowest form. And he sits there with his face suffused with just knowing how right he is. Pfft, this guy should be keel-hauled for a while and then made to walk the plank, not where a shark can get him, that's too quick, into a piranha tank. Is that racist because I don't like this puke? Of course not. He's a Caucasian, and a disgrace to his race, I might add. I've got an idea, Mr. PhD candidate. Why don't we start with you for the white genocide? In fact, why don't you just kill yourself? Use rope, and that way it can be reused. You're not even worth a bullet. Those things are expensive, certainly worth more than you. To illustrate the insanity of his political positions, old man Reagan later tweeted that he wanted to abolish all prisons. I support abolishing all prisons, to you. If you want to send this puke a message, he's at old man Reagan on Twitter. One wonders what reaction a major university would have to one of their faculty members calling for black genocide. Given the hysterical state of social justice warrior-controlled campuses these days, writes Paul Joseph Watson, old man Reagan will probably get a pay raise for his revolting anti-white racism. Paul, you know, you drop the F-bombs all the time. You get a little wild with it. He has used the C word before. It was used appropriately, but there's always some C word that's going to harass you out there. It was actually kind of funny, vile, language-wise, but funny. But I'll tell you what, he really is a gentleman, and I don't think he gave old man Reagan quite enough boot. But there's always time for him to give him more. Anyway, kudos to Paul. I say again, I don't think that my giving you kudos is going to rack up any points for you with your boss, but you get them anyway. Okay? All right, what else? Congress issues unmasking subpoenas. Answers demanded on Obama aid requests. This is going to get worse. Now let's talk about a couple of things. I want to remind you of something. The idiots who have taken over Africa, South Africa, have now demanded at the University of Cape Town. Now these are the same students who first burned the administration building and then burned down their own dormitories, and then the government insisted that the white people take them into their homes. This is the same bunch of idiots that is demanding that all science be deemed racist and that all contemporary science be discarded. The same idiots who think that tornadoes are racist because the only fatalities in a tornado attack were black people. So the tornado is racist. And the engineers, the white engineers, because there aren't any black ones in South Africa, unless they work for a white engineering firm, the white engineers are racist because they built the water reservoirs too big, and they won't fill up. If they had built them smaller, then they would be full. This is the sort of thinking that actually exists in the world. Now, for the black people who are watching this broadcast, you're watching this broadcast because you get it. You are exempted, of course. Clearly, you are not colorblind and don't seem to have any problem with white people, as we white people have no problem with you. They, the big they with the capital T, they made it about racism. You didn't. I didn't. They did. If it weren't for them, we wouldn't even be talking about this. Would we? No. Now, got a couple of genius bits for you here that we're going to use under the fair use provision of, I suppose it's FCC code. But if they strike the video, you'll know why, if you've gotten this far. We're going to show some real actualities, some real people. A group of students, they're so focused on their lessons. And a congresswoman. Not good. Let's see the students, shall we?
Ho, ho! These racist teachers have got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist teachers have got to go! Hey, hey! Teachers have got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist teachers have got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist teachers have got to go! Black power! Black power! Black power! Black power! Black power! Black power!
We'll do it.
Put your hand down. That's my problem, George. You keep doing these.
What about our protection right now? Fuck you and fuck the police! I would suggest that you take under heavily consideration those that oppose the training and that's how whiteness works. Whiteness is the most violent fucking system to ever breathe.
I want to cry. I can't tell you how fast my heart is beating right now. I'm shaking in my boots.
I got to go! Hey, hey! Hold on!
expect you to even say anything to me because I know actions speak louder than words. My mama didn't raise no fool.
Stop giggling and laughing every time we say something. Control it. Try.
Well, I heard her say that 11 o'clock this morning. She shouldn't have to be here at 5:30 still telling you to stop laughing.
It's not an accident that all of our administration is white.
Right.
It's not an accident. That shit is systematic as fuck. So while we sit up in here,
I said I'm tired of white people talking about what black and brown people need. You don't know.
I'm just trying to respond.
I'm letting you know. Good for you. Like, come on. You're not. No. You're not oppressed. Okay, sis.
I was at the night and I read that email and everything that was pretty much described in that email was 100% wrong. And it was, you better just say that you sorry and yeah, you lied.
Because it was some straight up bullshit.
Asking you one more time, I'm giving you a chance. Was the information in that email factual? Yes or no?
To my knowledge.
No, yes or no? Thank you. No, it was not factual.
Racist teachers have got to go. Hey, hey, go home. These racist teachers have got to go. Go home. These racist teachers have got to go. Hey, hey, go home. These racist teachers have got to go. Hey, hey.
Protect us,
That
but
sounds
no,
like another
they
lawsuit.
fear from us. They fear of us trying to mace us in the eyes and shit. For what? For us saying like, hey, Brett, you need to apologize? For one fucking white guy?
Is there any black folks that need water in here?
Why is it all these black women and femmes doing all this emotional labor in this space? These white-ass faculty members need to be holding him and all these people accountable. We don't need to be doing all things.
Get out! It's not helpful. Get out!
can you listen to your shirt?
Get out!
Shake and chill. You need to
Has demonstrated anti-blackness in the pigeonholing, charging, and sentencing of 2 black trans disabled students based on false racially charged allegations. Sorry.
Excuse me.
Get the camera on her.
Can we?
No, fuck you, George. We don't want to hear a goddamn thing you have to say. You
Then
talk so
actually,
fucking
then
much.
you're
No, you
asking
shut
me-
the fuck up.
No.
I think what's smart is not to I think what's smart is not to tone police people because people are angry, and so what matters is what they're saying, not how they're saying it.
Why don't you speak up? Because somebody keeps interrupting this man. I'm still trying to wait for him to answer the question whether it's bullshit or not. I want to hear what he has to say. So he done.
Sit your ass down. Yeah. Just turn, y'all. These are the lost ones. The lost ones are rising. Pay no attention. Johnny.
to make it seem like you have to simplify it for us. We're not simpletons. We're adults.
Right.
And so I'm telling you, you're speaking to your ancestor. All right? We've been here before you. We built these cities.
Right.
You've had civilization way before you ever had it.
Right.
Coming out your caves, okay? So, let's be.
You have the fucking nerve to fucking dehumanize like R and me have you. What's in this whole...
And like, mostly all the trannies too.
Yes, yeah.
This institution's really good at targeting trannies.
Yeah.
Man, pour his fucking soul out, and you're still here. Look, you called for a man who was being harassed or threatened. Why the fuck is he here? Please explain.
And what gets me is there was Shamir could just blatantly ask you what you could do to protect students, and you were ready. No, you sat here and you disregarded that all of us came here and took a risk to come here and be in this room with the way everybody's acting on campus, but you were ready to adjourn it for one white professor, right?
What's your action?
Put your hand down, George. Put your hand down. Watch yourself.
Watch yourself.
That's not appropriate.
You gotta put your hands down. You know you gotta put your hands down.
Yes, Ike! Yes, Ike! Ike is a damn fool, y'all.
Okay? The thing is that my ancestors were slaves and your ancestors were not. Your ancestors came here of free choice and decided to bring along my people of not of their own free will to work and build this country. Okay? And so I'm just letting you know that slavery still has repercussions in society today. And that is what we're here about. Those repercussions. It doesn't go away. It's not over. Thank
you. Now, if you think this is going to get better on its own, it won't. And the same people who are encouraging this bunch are of the same ilk as those who destroyed the Republic of South Africa. The white liberal, the leftist, the Marxist. Oh, they regret it now. But they were all for it back then. And now, just for starters, their money has gone from 1 rand equals $1 to 13.7 rand equal $1. I've shown you the Zimbabwean $10 trillion note that a caravaner sent me. That's a real note. 10 trillion Zimbabwean dollars. Probably buy, I don't know, grocery cart full of something. And let's not forget that there's this place called Liberia and another called Sierra Leone. This is where Liberia particularly was a place where slaves, wherever they were from, but black ones, could go and form their own government in their own country. Worked out pretty well, hasn't it? The problem is leadership. For example, Maxine Moore Waters, born August 15th, 1938, is the U.S. Representative for California's, 43rd Congressional District, and previously the 35th and 29th Districts, serving since 1991. A member of the Democratic Party, she is the most senior of the 12 black women currently serving in the United States Congress, is a member and former chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, and before becoming a member of Congress, she served in the California Assembly, to which she was first elected in 1976. So she's been in government service for 41 years. As an Assembly member, Waters advocated for the divestment from South Africa's apartheid regime. In Congress, she is an outspoken opponent of the Iraq War and Donald Trump. Listen to this genius.
Hi, Miss Waters. Hi, I'm fine. I've been calling your office and leaving emails, and hoping that maybe you could give me 5 minutes of your time. I know today is not the time.
You're one of 700,000.
I understand that. I understand that. Yes.
And so when I'm in Washington most of the time.
I
you know that. I fly in on Monday and I fly back on Thursday or Friday. But that's every week. So I have one day sometimes, and we try to figure out how to see everybody that we can. So tell me what you want to talk about.
Well, I just want to talk about your representation in Washington regarding our president as well.
I can't stand him.
I understand.
He's the most horrible man I've ever seen.
And I love my president very much.
I'm glad you do.
I respect your position, my position as well.
I'm glad you do.
But I also want to know why you aren't representing me in Washington by opposing my president.
Your president is a dishonorable, lying man. He mocked a journalist. I've never seen a grown man do that. He talked about grabbing women by the private parts. He lies every day. He's in bed with Putin and the Russians about oil. And everybody around him are allies with the Kremlin and with the oligarchs of Russia. They're going to take us down.
You mentioned comments about him being a liar.
He is a liar.
And grabbing a woman's pussy,
That's
which
right.
I don't think he ever did.
He said it.
I go back to...
What grown man talks like that?
I go back to President Clinton.
I don't care about Clinton.
Well, of course
I
you
care
don't.
about this.
Of course you
Listen,
don't.
I'm going to work every day until I get him impeached.
I'm going to work every day to make sure that he isn't and that you're impeached.
But that's okay.
Thank you so much,
Excuse
Ms.
me,
Slaughter.
you
Thank you so
can't
much.
impeach a
Thank
member
you
of
so much.
Congress. No,
Thank you so much.
you cannot
for
impeach a
not
woman of
representing me
Congress.
in office. Thank you so
That's
much.
okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, you can't impeach a congressperson, but you can remove them from office and send them down the road in disgrace. Those were students at Evergreen College demanding the suspension of a professor who opposed a school event asking white students and staff to leave campus. And then the students demanded that a video of their protest efforts, which you just saw, published online, be taken down. We demand that the video created for Day of Absence and Day of Presence that was stolen by white supremacists and edited to expose and ridicule the students and staff be taken down by the administration by this Friday, the students wrote in a list of demands to College President George Bridges. The video that you saw depicts student protesters screaming and shouting on campus in response to Professor Brett Weinstein's refusal to participate in a campus event in which white community members were asked to leave the school for a day. The video spread throughout social media. I repeat, this is from Breitbart. The students in the videos demanded that it be taken down, a request which would have been difficult for the administration to comply with due to the nature of social media and the internet. They claimed that the video had been stolen by white supremacists and demanded that it be taken down by Friday. Based on conversations with the Attorney General's office, the most likely course of action requires an investigation. We commit to launching an extensive forensic investigation into the theft of this video and to determine who stole it from the student. If that investigation yields a suspect, we will seek criminal charges against the individual in consultation with the Attorney General. Oh, really? The video includes profane language, as you heard, includes a segment in which students hurl expletive at College President George Bridges, who largely complied with the group's demands. Article by Tim Cicciota, C-I-C-C-O-T-T-A, Cicciota. Cicciota, yeah. Double C's is C-H, right? Yep. So there you go. How about that? This is very interesting. Now, this comes from Josh Kaplan, Kaplan with a C, from his vesselnews.io, V-E-S-S-E-L, news.io. Study: ABC, CBS, NBC barely cover left-wing catastrophe in Venezuela and avoid the word socialism. Out of approximately, this is Catherine Blackhurst of Life Zet, because Josh he reposts. He does some of his own editorials, but he reposts other newsworthy items. And Catherine Blackhurst of Life Zet has written, out of approximately 50,000 total evening news stories on ABC, CBS, and NBC combined in the last 4 years, just 25 have covered the ongoing crisis in socialist Venezuela, according to a Media Research Center study published Tuesday. After Venezuela's former socialist president Hugo Chavez passed away in March 2013, the country has spiraled into economic disaster and civil chaos. So far in 2017, more than 50 Venezuelans have been killed during protests against current Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his socialist policies. Many Venezuelans are starving due to food shortages, and other essentials are in short supply. The country's inflation rate is set to surpass 700%, and 25% of Venezuelans will be unemployed. Here's a quote: "The few times they have managed to cover the widespread poverty, starvation, and government oppression, they somehow find ways to do that without saying the word socialism. Yet the big three evening newscasts have tried to pretend this crisis does not exist, offering virtually no coverage as the situation has deteriorated over the past 4 years," MRC research analyst Mike Ciandello wrote. The networks have also been reluctant to attach the socialist label to Venezuela's government and have utterly failed to criticize liberal politicians and celebrities who have praised the Chavez and Maduro regimes. Indeed, out of the 50,000 total news stories on the three networks, and the three networks having covered only 25 times anything having to do with Venezuela, and only 7 mentioned socialism, NBC Nightly News only broadcast 13 stories spanning 16 minutes and 54 seconds. ABC's World News only covered 8 minutes and 34 seconds over 7 stories, and CBS Evening News offered only 3 minutes and 11 seconds over 5 stories. So that's your ministry of smoke and mirrors. Bought and paid for bunch of whores. Oh, I know, prostitute is a nicer word. These people are gutter whores. In suits with makeup artists. Every hair in precisely the right place, little glasses on straight. I'm going to give the news now. They told me what to say. And if I don't say it, I won't have my job. And very likely could get thrown in the weeds. Which is why they really don't want to talk about Seth Rich, do they? They really don't. But we're going to talk about it. There is no more dangerous person than the one who just doesn't give a damn anymore if the things that he or she says are offensive, as long as it's the truth. It must be truth. How many more parts of the world have to be murdered by the lies that come out of this government and its little lapdog, the MSM? How many more? Well, I don't know about you, but I'm over it. We have reached that point where we have to make a decision. It's too late to just make it stop. Just make it stop. You know, like the boyfriend of the Boston bombing girl, while she's video recording herself going, he wants, just make the fireworks stop. Well, the fireworks are about to begin. Why in the world would the Pope, and wasn't the Queen of England? Why in the world would they say, enjoy this last Christmas? What do you mean, like we're not going to get another one? Well, these people are absolutely desperate, and if you think they won't suck you into a world war to save their backsides, you're wrong, they will. I've said this before, and I'll say it one more time and be done with it. On some of these long flights that I would take from, pretty long flight, about 1,200 miles, takes a couple hours and a half, 3 sometimes with traffic in the sky, from Dallas to LA, I would look over these vast stretches of land, and I would think, you can't even, from this altitude, from 35,000 feet, you can't make out a person down there, and yet one person, one human being, can either turn everything we see green or everything we see into fire. One person, one Kim Jong-un, one global elitist with his finger on enough buttons, one imperceptibly small person as viewed from the comfort of your airliner. By the way, it looks like United Airlines may get smacked with about $435,000 worth of fines going back 2 or 3 years, 2014. So they were flying some aircraft that were not certified airworthy. Let's hope they do, and then don't do it again. I wish I had some good news for you, but actually when you think about it, I do. And I've said this before as well. It's Sometimes I feel like a broken record. But the smoke is being blown away and the screens are coming down. There is light beyond this shroud of darkness that's covered us for so long. It's painful to find out the truth. The truth is liberating. As written in the Bible, the Lord said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." Unless, of course, not only can you not handle the truth, but you can't handle freedom either. What's it going to be then? There's still time to make a decision. At this moment, there's still time. And in the meantime, that bastion of tranquility and togetherness would be Los Angeles, California. Their homeless level is at an all-time high. And according to Mike Adams' Natural News, water may become unaffordable in the not-too-distant future. We've got some real problems out there. The more people know about these problems, the more likely we are to come up with a solution, because the government is not going to help us. Because we're the government. And I think it's time we acted like it. Let's have a beautiful musical interlude, something inspirational, shall we? And then let's get on with the one and only Liz Crokin.